Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Civic Education with Dr. Joseph Tumo Baba. Today is Thursday, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In this edition of Civic Education, our topic is the dispensation of justice based on collective guilt. My guest, Dr. Joseph Baba, this is Civic Education Decounty Artists collaborated or partnered with Focus on Liberia so we can bring you civic education in a way to prepare the population as we proceed to the December 8th election. Dr. Baba, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you so much.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is very important that we get educated on what our civic duties are, what our responsibilities are, and what we need to know, especially as we gear towards any important event like elections and so on. So tonight we're going to be discussing the dispensation of justice based on collective guilt. But before that, we're going to do a recap of what we covered from last week. And if we have time, we're going to start with the Constitution. Again, welcome. Please share the show. We know there's a lot of things going on in our country. There's a rape protest going on and other things are happening. But in the midst of that, we need to educate our people. We need to discuss civic education. What do you need to do in terms of protest? Why do people protest? Last week we discussed words like dissent, violence, violent clashes, unprovoked attacks, or ethnic and tribal attacks. So people are protesting. Is it a right for the citizen to protest? What does the government need to do during the time of protest? Law enforcement officer, how do we cooperate with them? What do we need to know and do during protests? So all these come handy when we get civic education. Tonight, we are honored to have Dr. Baba, who is also doing this as part of Decounty Artists, Inc. And we are glad to have you, Dr. Baba, to discuss civic education.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I guess you want me to go ahead and get started, right?
Yeah, let's get started. Let's first, we know this is day 2 week 2 of this series. So last week we started discussing some keywords like dissent, violence, violent clashes, unprovoked attacks. And under unprovoked attack, we discussed personal attacks, group attacks, ethnic or tribal attacks. So before we start today's topic, I want you to spend some time going over that to reinforce the idea, and then we can have a solid place to start from. Let's shoot.
Very good. Yeah, so what Liberians and all those who participate in elections need to understand that there are several incidents that occur whenever you hold an election. People are excited. People have choices. People make choices, political choices, based on personal interests or based on group interests. So definitely, and then also, psychologically and sociologically as well, when 2 or 3 or more people are gathered together, there will always be individual differences. There will always be ideological differences. So the first thing we would like to explain to the Liberian electorate is that please understand when Flomo, your brother, is choosing candidate A while you are choosing candidate B, the reason why you must tolerate your brother choosing candidate A while you are choosing candidate B is because by law, Flomo is entitled to choose whomever he wants to choose. You are entitled to choose whom you want to choose. There is no law that says that because Flomo is your brother, so when you support candidate B, Flomo should support candidate B. There's no law that says that. So do not make enemies with your neighbors, with your brothers and sisters, because you are making separate and different choices. Respect the choice that your brother makes and let your brother respect your choice. There's no need for you to be enemies simply because you are trying to elect someone that you feel will be the best person for that position, and that you feel that your brother isn't choosing whomever you're choosing. So please understand that there's no law that says that because you are brothers and sisters or you are husband and wife, therefore you must support the same political candidate. So when someone supports a candidate that you don't support, it's okay. There's no need for you to get into confusion with the person. That's the first thing. The other thing is that it's very difficult for people to hold elections and the results be accepted by everyone, wholeheartedly. There will always be someone who will feel that he was cheated, or that the votes were not counted right, or that their representatives were not allowed to be actively involved in the counting of the ballots. All these things will happen. But then that's why in the law, there's law that says that you can protest. If you have complaints, you can file in your complaints and all of that. And I was just reading the information from the official gazette that was prepared last year for this year's election, that is proposing, because initially it would take 30 days for redress, for you to complain, to receive any kind of redress from whomever you are complaining to, the Elections Commission. But now they are proposing, it's not the law yet. The law that stands right now is that when you have a complaint, if there's any dissent, you have the commission has 30 days to respond. And when we go to the Constitution, I will tell you what is being proposed, for the referendum that will take place in November. And then, of course, the referendum takes place in November and the election is in December. So those two things, we also need to give you the timeline so that you don't get confused. So the idea of dissent will happen, but when it happens, there's a provision in the Constitution that states when you are supposed to file your complaint and how long it should take the commission to respond to that complaint. So the same thing is important to know that it is okay for you to dissent, and if you do that, there's a law that states when you're supposed to submit your complaint. Then the issue about violence. Sometimes violence will occur during elections time. Like for instance,
Dr. Gbaba, let me stop you a minute, because you talk about dissent. You say in an election, people, the result will not always be satisfactory to everybody, and there will always be dissent.
Yes.
And when there is dissent, there is a protocol channel to follow.
Yes.
We have witnessed, even right now in Mali, and also sometimes in Liberia, where people have dissent and then they regroup to either stage a coup or go into the bush and start a rebel war. Is that form of dissent justified, or can it be justified?
No, it's not justified, because there's nothing in the Constitution that says that when you hold elections and you don't win, therefore you should go and purchase weapons of mass destruction to wage a war on the people. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that, so it's unconstitutional for you to do that. And the framework within which we are speaking within the framework of the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia. This is our term of reference with respect to the civic education we are providing. Every piece of information we are providing is in compliance with what the law says, the law of the land. And to go outside of the law of the land to purchase weapons to come and wage a war, like what happened, like for instance, we talk about dissent. We can give examples of dissent, from elections that have been held in Liberia. Okay, last week I talked about an example in 1927, but that's far away. Let's talk about 1985, during the time when Doe was leaving the barracks to become a civilian, president, and they had the election. That election, when it was held, Emmett Harmon declared Doe the winner of the election. Jackson F. Doe wasn't satisfied. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who was given a senatorial seat, refused a senatorial seat. She didn't. They didn't seek constitutional means to protest and lay their complaint as laid down in the Constitution, but rather they took to arms to do whatever they did. And the minute that they took that decision to take up arms against the sitting president and the government of the Republic of Liberia, the government and people of the Republic of Liberia, they broke the law at that very moment. So the 1985 evasion that took place was against the law. It was against the Constitution of Liberia. There's nothing that says that when you are dissatisfied with the result of an election, you should purchase gun and wage war on the country. There's nothing that says that, but there's something in the Constitution that states that when you are dissatisfied, there's a time period for you to lay your complaint to the body that is responsible for that. Right. So the issue of violence, using violence, is unacceptable.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed, and I argued with someone before, that the 1985 coup was not a result of the election or dissent from the election. And this is why I said it.
Okay.
Elections were held October 1985.
Yes.
October 15, I think, to be exact.
Yeah.
Then the invasion was November 12th. So when the elections are not even announced on the same day, so give it 2 or 3 days. So it could not take the coup planners and plotters less than 1 month to be dissatisfied, train people in Libya, and come and wage the war. So I thought the dissent was on other issues, maybe governance issue prior to elections. And the election was just the last straw that broke the
camouflage.
Yeah, and then they were able to go in the bush and wage the evasion, and that killed people.
Okay, now I agree. I agree with you, because in 1985, the current law that says that if you are dissatisfied, you have 30 days, 1 month. So if the election was held the second Tuesday in October. Right. So a month from the second Tuesday in October will be November. You see what I'm talking about? So you are definitely right that yes, that the coup was like it was a second choice. Or if we don't win, if we win, fine, then there won't be any war. But if we don't win, then we will do this. You know, yeah. So it's within that time, because that time frame within which the invasion took place from Sierra Leone falls within the constitutional time frame for the government or for the commission, elections commission, to respond to whatever dissent was available at that time. So you are absolutely right, because it goes beyond that. The issue here is that the fact that an indigenous person took over, and we had a revolution, because at that you can consider that a revolution, because there was a complete turnaround of power. It was complete turnaround of who's leading the power, who's making the decision. It was reversed in 1980, and you can see from that, later on, that the people who really engineered the Western Liberian genocide and planned it and all of that, you can see that they were all, a lot of them were members of the erstwhile Trugwi party that were overthrown. So definitely you do have a point there. It's not just really the election, because the time frame in which they organized and trained people, militias and all of that, and got mercenaries from different countries to do all of that, means that it was planned. It was planned since 1980, from the time they were overthrown. They have been planning to do that for a long time. So you are definitely right with that. So, but again, violence is not the issue. It's not a solution to solving any problem. And there's the same thing with violent clashes between opposing opposing parties, opposing contestants and the supporters and all of that. Those who are vying for public office, who are contesting, must be responsible enough to educate their followers, to let them know what they stand for. And we will pray that those who are running for public office will be people who promote peace and reconciliation, so that you make that clear to your supporters and let them know, say, look, this thing, though that I'm running to become a senator or whatever it is, but in case of anything, if we have any dissatisfaction, the law states that we should do X, Y, and Z. So let us comply with the law so that there will be no violence, there will be no violent clashes and all of that. You as a candidate must educate your followers, your supporters, so that your camp can be law abiding. Some of these things happen because the leaders, the contestants, do not educate those that support them. So they leave it to them. People will get angry. But when people get angry, it's the responsibility of the leader to counsel them, to soothe them, to appeal to them. You know, so that's very important, so that we don't engage in violent clashes.
Sorry, because I want us to drill into this a little more. Because whose responsibility it is to educate the people on what to do and what not to do during election? Is it the candidate? Is it election commission? Is it the government, political parties, pressure group? Who's supposed to be doing this civic education?
The civic education, because we're talking about national elections. So if we're talking about national elections, it's the responsibility of the Republic of Liberia. It's the responsibility of the Republic of Liberia through the wing of the Ministry of Information. The Ministry of Information by now should be reaching out to all of us. Those of us in the diaspora, Liberians all over the country. That should be their responsibility. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing that. I'm not hearing, anything of that kind. Most of the time, what they focus on is not of essence to the national unity of the country. I'm very, very not pleased actually with their performance, especially at this time. At this time, we should be promoting peace and reconciliation. I'm not seeing that coming from the Ministry of Information, whose job it is to do that. Even with the Gazette, the National Gazette, and the information that were printed into bills since October, I think October 4th or whatever it is, 2019. I just got to know about that, and from other people and from Emmanuel Eweti that I spoke with, that kind of shared that information with me. So you can see that it's not even properly circulated. The time that they take to get, on Facebook or social media to just argue and fuss with people, that's the time they're supposed to be taking to educate everyone. They have a greater responsibility because over 90% of the people do not really understand English. So what are you doing with respect to disseminating this very important information? We're talking about a national referendum. A national referendum. You're going to be having a national referendum in October of this year. You're talking about the Tuesday after September 30th, according to the Gazette and the information. The Tuesday after September 30th is October 1st. October 1st is also be the national referendum, according to the official Gazette that I read. So how many people know that that the national referendum will be held Tuesday, October 1st, 2020? How many Liberians know that? Even those who are listening to us now, a lot of them may not have even heard about this and don't even know that it's going to happen. And then the interesting thing about it also is that the tricky thing and they're not telling people, and they want to trick the people, and Liberians need to know that they're trying to trick them is that the referendum will take place before the December 8th election, according to the National Gazette, that the publish is supposed to take place a month before the elections are held. And
I didn't even know that.
Yes, it's supposed to take place before the elections are held. So how many people know that there are two separate things happening? Not just the what's that 2020 senatorial, general legislative elections is not the only thing. The main thing is that the main thing is the national referendum, because they want to make amendments. You hold a national referendum when you have a proposal and you want to make an amendment to the Constitution. Now, Dennis, this is where my concern is. As we were talking about violence, we're talking about violent clashes, and all of that. And you made a good point. You said that it wasn't just only the result of the election that caused that war, but that people had pre-planned, to wage this war, not only because of the election, but because of the change of power in the country, which is very obvious, and we saw that later on as well. But the thing about it also is that with respect to the Constitution, that whatever the Constitution says, we're supposed to follow. These are people who did not follow the Constitution, who violated the Constitution to wage a war. So all of a sudden now they're interested in amending the Constitution and calling for a referendum. So we need to be very, very careful, because in the referendum, people can make changes in the Constitution right before your eyes, and you don't know that you're signing your death warrant when you go for that referendum. So the referendum is very important, because they want to make some changes in the referendum, which we will talk about later on. There are some important changes they want to make in the referendum. So
on violent clashes, because we are seeing these things happen every day. There was a candidate who, when he went somewhere, and then I think people were throwing rock, and he said, when you throw rock, we'll throw rock. Violent clashes. We also see that there are some politicians that are full of vulgarity.
Yes.
Some of these things will kind of lead to violent clashes, and then the excuse for that is, okay, this is the only language the other person understands. If we don't use this kind of vulgar language, they would not going to be able to understand. And so we see now in Liberia this idea of militancy. Everybody is in khaki, ready to fight, and we're using all this kind of bad language. And what I see is these are some of the things that give rise to violent clashes, because one group, like what happened in Zwedru, violent clashes, because from what people say and other people react, and then by the time we know, the flame is out.
Now also that also is good you brought that up again too, because that also again is the responsibility of the Ministry of Information. The ministry, because unfortunately, most times people just think that the Ministry of Information is just there to write press releases. I beg your pardon. You're not just there to write a press release. You're not just there to wait until somebody accuses the government and you write up a rebuttal. No, your responsibility is to inform the people. And in the Gazette, it says that the information will be disseminated by the government information services. You see, so there's something going on that is not right. The Minister of Information supposed to be someone who is for peace and reconciliation, and supposed to be the person who's supposed to be going around informing the people, educating the people about peace and reconciliation. Unfortunately, the choice of a Minister of Information is unsatisfactory at this time. And the reason why it's unsatisfactory at this time is because the government, the president of the Republic of Liberia right now was a peace ambassador. And as a peace ambassador, being president of the country, the information ministry is supposed to be propagating peace messages. It's supposed to be propagating peace messages in correspondence with the type of person that was elected to be the president of the country. So we're not hearing the peace messages coming out, from the government's agency, telling the people, look, this is not the way we're supposed to do. That's number one. Number two, psychologically, sociologically, with respect to human behavior, human development, and also with respect to behavior modification or applied behavior analysis. What took place in Liberia with respect to the decision that was made to allow rebel warlords and things to participate in election, to violate the caveat that was established by the TRC, is a result that we are going through today. Because in applied behavior analysis, you do not reward unacceptable behavior.
Mm-hmm.
When the Liberian people under the aegis, the auspices of the quote-unquote international community, went to those conferences and sidetracked the constitution of Liberia, with respect to what the standing vice president was living. They went to Banjul. Sawyer was one of those who wrote the constitution, and the constitution states that when the president is incapacitated, the vice president takes over.
Yeah.
So if they really wanted peace and they wanted rule of law and all of that, Sawyer should have been the first person to tell the people in Banjul, say, look, I don't need to be an interim president. We have a sitting vice president who is in Sierra Leone or whatever it is. Let's send for him and swear him in for him to be president, for her to go on from there. If there were people who really meant well for the people of Liberia and the Republic of Liberia, that would have saved all those lives that were damaged after Joe died. Joe had already died.
I don't know if the rebels, especially the one with the biggest gun, was going to accept it. But here's my question, because most of the people that engage in violent clashes, they often quote the Constitution, Article 1, which reads, all power is inherent in the people. All free governments are instituted for their authority and for their benefit, and they have the right to alter and reform the same when their safety and happiness so require. So people are using that instead of going to election. They say, well, if our safety and happiness require, we can use violence to remove the sitting leader.
Okay. Now, what I'm saying is that you wanted to remove the sitting leader. By the time they went to Banjul, the sitting leader was already dead.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how people have been using violence, have been justifying violence from the Constitution.
Yeah, I'm responding to you and telling you that even if that were the case, if they were receiving, if they were reacting because they felt that their lives were at stake, and that this dictator must go or whatever is it. I'm saying that the dictator had already gone. So I don't think that it was just the issue of, oh no, we're not safe or whatever it was. It was the issue of taking over the country. It was the issue of, trying to regain power. That's what that was, you see. But however, so now we're talking about people who are talking about the Constitution. You violate the Constitution in one way. Now you want to use the Constitution to do other things. So with respect to behavior modification, by virtue of the fact that whoever those people who were responsible for the decision-making process, by virtue of the fact that they condescended to the requirements of those who were fighting that had guns, instead of putting a stop to it, agreeing for Taylor to run and declaring him president and all of those kinds of things. That's why you see there's a proliferation of that violent behavior and act, because it has been rewarded on so many occasions. You see, and you're talking about children. You're talking about a generation of Liberian youth who were born from 1989 to 2020, that's 31 years. So a child who was born from the day that they shot the first gun in Butu up to this time, that child is 31 years old. That's a 31-year-old young man. Some of them got children. You see? So you've made this thing to stay long. Tugo Yaro, who was the field commander for ECOMOG, he was prepared to sweep the whole Taylor forces together out so that they could stop that violence for people to realize that wasn't a way to take over power. They seen Sawyer went and play politics with the international people and said, oh, more people will die if you do that. Don't you know that more people have died after they told ECOMOG to cease fire?
Dr. Gbaba, I think Sawyer denied that. So I don't know if what you were saying is what's the reference that Sawyer actually told them?
Yeah, because we heard it on BBC. We heard it on BBC that the interim government was requesting the peace picking force to seize, the offensive on the NPFL.
So they can create a buffer zone. Okay.
So they can create a buffer zone. So what you creating a buffer zone for? When you're trying to get rid of the arms and things, so that we can continue with the restoration of the rule of law. Right. And look what happened. And look what is happening now. Right. You see, because once you give those kind of people the opportunity to have access to state power and state resources, they're using the resources, to perpetuate this whole thing.
And galvanize the weapon. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing civic education with Dr. Joseph Gbaba. Our topic today is the dispensation of justice based on collective guilt. We are now going back to do a recap from last week, discussing some of the world's dissent, violent clashes, and unprovoked attacks.
Okay, now let me come to unprovoked attack. Okay.
I wanted to read a comment here from Elder Joseph Kokro.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
He said, what if situation arises where it is proven that aggrieved citizens cannot have redress from institutions charged with addressing their complaints? When you were talking about the 30 days to have your complaints heard.
Yeah.
If those institutions are in the pocket of the government, nobody's listening to you, what do you do?
Now, listen, I gave an example of the 1927 elections. When Faulkner and his supporters were not pleased with the result of the election, they would have said that Liberia is a sovereign state, so therefore the League of Nations had nothing to do with it. But one of the things that he cleverly did was to mix his dissent with things that were already happening in the country, that he could prove that the government was abusing human rights. Okay, so he used that, plus his dissent to file a complaint to the League of Nations, and the League of Nations appropriately responded, with respect to establishing a commission, an inquiry commission. Right. The inquiry commission did its work. As usual, the decision of the international body will be that, since the country is a sovereign nation, therefore we will, revert the decision to them to decide. So in that case, they sent the report to the legislature. Right. But now that's where you also need men and women of conscience to hold popular positions, especially lawmakers, especially the legislature that is clothed with the authority to impeach a sitting president. You see, the example that the people set in 1930, is something that if the people could follow it in our time, all of these things that are going on will not happen. But they are happening, as I said, because with respect to behavior analysis or behavior modification, what we did was the opposite. And now Also, those who were parties to the conflict were fooled by the international community, especially people from the Western world, people from UN and all of that. Where in the Western world have you seen any of the rebel leaders or whatever it is, taking up power in Europe and becoming president? Apart from their arresting them and sending them to The Hague to be prosecuted and jailed.
Yeah.
Where do you see that?
You don't see it.
Yeah, so the Liberian people will continue to suffer and go through what we're going through unless if we obey the Constitution.
And how they obey the Constitution is when we teach it. Let's go to unprovoked attacks.
Yeah, unprovoked attack. I gave you an example that comes to mind. Most of the time when people hear about the incident called the Nimba raid, they always think that is the AFL or the Crown people that went and raided, people in Nimba. That's the impression that you get when you hear the Nimba raid. But the Nimba raid thing is an example of unprovoked attack, because when Kwiwangba and the people came from Sierra Leone and they waged the war that failed in 1985, what happened, according to the information, was that people from Nimba themselves went to the home of Charles Julu. So I don't know what the connection was that they decided to go to Charles Julu, to go to his house and to murder his children with respect to the invasion, because the thing happened in Monrovia. You see, and when it happened in Monrovia, Kwiwangba was killed. So how they managed to go to General Julu's home to kill his children, what did he do at that time, to cause that, is an example of an unprovoked attack. You see, that happened. It's unfortunate that it happened, but when I read the information, I found out that it was Wanseli and other people that did that on their own. Now, individuals taking up, the law in their own hands and doing things, kind of created that kind of a situation that the planners of the failed 1985 coup and the planners of the Liberian genocide, that's what they wanted. They wanted some kind of confusion, because in the first instance, sending Kwiwangba, was a good setup for indigenous people, so they could have an opportunity to say, oh, the Crown people against Nimba people, gradually people against Nimba people, and they play their cards very well, and the people bought into
just a point of correction, the Nimba raid was before the 1985 invasion. I think it was around 1983.
Okay.
So the Nimba raid took place prior to the 1985.
Okay, it took place. Yeah, and why did it take place? Thank you for that anyway. But why did it go to Julu's home, to do that?
Right. From what we gather, people were trying to start some uprising in Nimba. So while the attention of the armed forces were focused in Nimba, they could go to Monrovia and stage a coup. Something like that I heard. I
see. Yeah, but that's an example of unprovoked attack. All these, and then the other thing also, that as we're preparing for elections, personal attacks, group attacks, those things are not part of your platform, unless they're part of your platform, But what people have not understood in Liberia is that when you are having an election, those of you who are the voters, you must demand from those who are running, you must demand from them what their platform will be. If they're coming to your community to tell you that they want to run for a position in that community, you want to know why they want to run for that position. That's number one. And number two, if they're going to run for that position that is going to represent the people in that community, the constituents in that community, then what is it that this person is going to do for the community? Number two, the people in the community also must, gather together and decide, what is what are the needs of that community? What is it that we need? Is it a hospital that we need? Is it a school that we need? And base their support, their pledge to support that person on the fact that the person will commit himself or herself to building whatever the people need. You see? So if you got those kinds of things planned, definitely you will have no time to be attacking somebody personally because this person is ugly, or this person is this, or this person is that. You will be dealing with the issues. So most of the time, people that run for offices in Liberia, because they don't have platforms to present to their supporters, they end up cursing one another. Personal attacks and all of that. It's not personal attacks that we are going to benefit from. People are sick; they need hospital. You there insulting someone, and you're voting for somebody because the person is insulting another person. So after the person wins, what do you expect? If the person insults you, that's how you won the position. You see? Okay. So we should do away with personal attacks, because at this stage of our history and society, we don't need all of this confusion. People must be sober-minded. People must be mindful of the safety and security of the state. And those who are in position of public trust will continue to use expressions, that are not, suitable, that are very aggravating, and that kind of incite people. There are provisions in the Constitution for that. You cannot continue to use inflammatory language to incite people against the government or against people against one another. When you make those kinds of remarks, they got provisions in the Constitution to make people not to do that. So that nobody's above the law. So you see that when you have rule of law where nobody is above the law, then those kinds of behaviors can be stopped. But they're not being stopped, so that's why you have those kinds of things going on.
All right. I think we can go to our topic for the day, which is the dispensation of justice based on collective guilt.
Yeah, now this dispensation of justice, and that's not even justice anyway. Because if justice doesn't call for that. So this dispensation of justice based on collective guilt is where, for instance, and a lot of people were victims of it in Liberia. The crime people were victims. The Guild people were victims. The Mana people were victims. The Congo people were victims of dispensation of justice based on collective guilt. Well, if President Tolbert, did something that the Liberian people didn't like, and they had the coup, it has nothing to do with the innocent, or Congo or American Liberian people in their settlements. They're not the government. They're not Tolbert. They're not related to Tolbert. Even Tolbert's children or his relatives, they got nothing to do with the president of the Republic of Liberia. He was president of the Republic of Liberia. So if he did anything and he was overthrown, then that anger and everything should have stopped right there, and not go to the innocent Congo people. You see, and not go to destroy the people's property because Tolbert was a Congo man. So therefore, there's no provision in the Constitution that says that because an individual from a specific ethnic group did something that the people didn't like, that the people have the power or the liberty to go from house to house to look for people who come from the same ethnic group as that person to execute them. So the dispensation of justice based on collective guilt is completely against the Constitution of Liberia. It's against the Constitution of all nations, so to speak. You know, there's no way where you are supposed to be held responsible for the behavior of another person. You see, according to law, if I did something wrong, then I should be punished. I should face the law, you know, and face the consequences of my actions. Just me alone. Got nothing to do with my wife. It got nothing to do with my children. It got nothing to do with my relatives. It got nothing to do with anybody who's a member of the same ethnic group as I am. Now, Jah, this is where the issue is with the Liberian people. Somebody violates the law, and the people who are related to that individual or the people who come from the same ethnic group as that person want to make it an ethnic issue. It is not an ethnic issue. Every citizen is responsible to face the consequences of his own action. So those of you who got nothing to do with whatever Jua did, you know, it got nothing to do with the ethnic group.
Right.
The law is going to deal with Jua as a Liberian citizen, as per the provisions of the Constitution. So when people try to make it an ethnic issue, that's disruption of justice.
And Dr. Gbaba, these things start very small. Take, for instance, the issue of stereotypes, and we take that for joke, where you take an entire ethnic group and you stereotype them, okay? And we think it's funny. And gradually, when war comes, like we saw in the war, and there are various types of stereotypes that we Liberians, we indulge in, we laugh about it, and we think it's funny. But anytime these things happen, people use that same collective guilt. Because if you felt that an entire tribe is stupid, or you felt an entire tribe sold the country, or an entire tribe can eat this or eat that, when one member of that ethnic group is in power, we extend that stereotype. So whatever that one single person did, we extend that blanket to all members of that ethnic group. And it happens even for people within the ethnic group and people outside.
Yes, you are absolutely right about that. You know, again, we come to the Ministry of Information. I don't know whether you've extended Eugene Nangbe an invitation for him to come, you know, and discuss with us about civic education. I think you should, invite him to come.
We have invited him several times, but we've not been successful.
Okay, fine. You know, that's unfortunate, because a forum like this is one of those fora that he should take advantage of. Any kind of opportunity that he can have to speak to the Liberian citizens, it should always be something that he should always, you know, take advantage of, because it's very important. Now, you're talking about the thing that you're talking about, again, is the Ministry of Information that is supposed to do that. The Ministry of Information is supposed to be educating the Liberian people about even the languages and the language that we use, our tone of voice when we are, you know, campaigning. They should be the ones to tell us, look, this thing here, we just came from a violent period of time, and we're trying to maintain peace. So therefore, when you're going to campaign, please, you know, take it easy. Excuse me. Don't create any kind of tension that will any kind of situation that will, you know, kind of make people angry to become violent. That's one thing. The other thing is that the issue about the dispensation of justice based on collective guilt, as well as what you are talking about, stereotyping, that again is something that the Ministry of Information is supposed to be promoting, cultural diversity.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be promoting cultural diversity on radio, on TV, live, gathering, social, community engagement, or ceremonies and stuff, to let people know that it's okay to be Pele, it's okay to be Crew, it's okay to be Bassa, it's okay to be Congo, to be whoever you are. And that it's also okay for us to learn from one another.
Yeah.
And to appreciate one another. That's supposed to be the theme. That's supposed to be the focus of the ministry at this time. Not just only writing press releases, but this is the thing you're supposed to do to educate the people, because you already have a communication barrier. The communication barrier is that we're speaking English, and the bulk of the people don't understand English.
Right. And
so we have to find a way to communicate with them. We're not communicating with the people.
And the media as well. There was a time that I think there was a company in Nimba County some time ago, and I think people were demanding some sort of things that the company was not providing those amenities that they deserve. So they closed the place and they were throwing stones. And it was reported in the news, Nimba youth throwing stones, blah, blah, blah. So I asked the general, I said, how do you know that's Nimba youth?
Yeah.
And why can you say maybe angry youth? But when you say Nimba youth, what you are doing is you already know that it's Nimba, even though it's happening in Nimba, but you are not sure if it is Nimba youth. Two, anybody who is from Nimba, instead of now, because you call them Nimba youth, so they feel that affinity to them, so they rally behind them, even though what they are doing is criminal in nature, they rally behind them. Quite recently, when the incident happened in Grand Jide, they said Grand Jide citizens. So the media, what the language we use and how we describe people speaks to what you are talking about, the collective guilt.
Yeah, now you see the other thing here too is even those who call themselves journalists, and unfortunately we don't have that many journalists in Liberia, it's something like, referring to everybody that goes in the classroom to hold a chalk to teach, you're calling them an educator. No, there's a difference. Okay, there's a difference. People going around, holding a little mic and with a little notebook, to earn a little living, that didn't go to school for journalism. You must be treated. Journalism is a profession all by itself, and it's a discipline, and that discipline requires your knowing several things, especially the ethics surrounding the discipline. Every discipline has an ethic. You see, so you can see that most of the time, those little reporters who go around calling themselves journalists don't have the training to do it. First are the description, or sometimes what they write, the articles that they write. You see all the errors and things in it. The grammatical errors and all those kinds of things. It tells you that there's a lot of need for training to do that. That's number one. The other thing is that part of journalistic ethics is not to take sides. And most of the time, the Liberian journalists or Liberian writers, or whoever you call them, reporters, will take sides in matters where they're just only supposed to investigate and provide information, based on based on their research or investigation, without, casting blame on anyone. Now, the other thing that I need to explain to Liberians to understand moving forward is that, Liberia right now, the population is fluid. People during the genocide, people left from Grand Cru. Some people living in Grand Cru didn't feel safe there. They went all the way to Vonjima to live there.
Yeah.
Some people left from Vonjima, they went to Grand Jide. So because ethnically, demographically, certain areas in Liberia are supposed to be certain group of people living there. It's not like that anymore. It's not like that anymore. You go to Grand Jide, you will see Gyo people, Mana people, Congo people, Crown people, Crew people, everybody living there. Like that. And it's like that all over the country. So it's not fair that if something happens in any of the regions in Liberia, and also with respect to the reporters or journalists must be cognizant of the security risk that they take when they make those kinds of sensitive comments. You gotta be cognizant of the period of the period you're living in. If the period is a period of tension and all of that, it's not your responsibility as a journalist to increase that tension. You can see how BBC played an unprofessional role in the Liberian genocide. They helped the rebels to win. They helped the rebels to win, because that's what they wanted. But Liberian people didn't understand that the people in the West always want Africa to be nothing. They want us to destroy ourselves, to kill ourselves. So when 5 o'clock, we heard that, Elizabeth Blunt came, and she was, all the things she was saying were in favor of the rebels. Even when the rebels were killing people and all of that, it was the army. And they were calling the army those soldiers and all of that, and that kind of increased the anger of the people against their own government, against their own soldiers, against their own military, and all of that. And it's not that all of them, the people in the army, were committing those atrocities. And later on, we came to find out that some of the people that were wearing that same uniform committing the atrocities were the rebel leaders. They were soldiers that derelited, and you see them. So some of those reports that BBC made, they can be challenged, because we in the final analysis, those who are wearing the government army clothes that were soldiers, they were soldiers, and they left and joined the rebels. So it should be investigated. Those people should be investigated. Those who derelited, they need to face court-martial, because they were soldiers. So that's the thing on the collective guilt thing. So the collective guilt thing is something that, stereotyping, collective guilt is those things are unconstitutional. And stereotyping, that as you said, people think that it's a joke. It's no joke. It's no joke, because people lose their lives. People lose opportunities. People lose money. People lose their properties. And you say you're joking. There's no time for us to joke. This is time for us to respect one another. And to respect one another means that we must promote cultural diversity. And that, again, has to come from the Ministry of Information. I'm sorry, the Ministry of Information is not, they're not on course. They're really not on course. They're not helping we are at all.
So what citizen must do now? Because you see, for collective guilt or passing this blanket judgment on people is very, very common, even today, among us. And sometimes we bring it upon ourselves, because let's say Joseph Gbaba is Loma, and because I talk to Joseph Gbaba, the Loma people believe that I'm talking to them, so they come at me.
Yeah, that's
both ways.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So it's the education. For a country like Liberia that has had this genocide, you must have programs in place. Today I saw the women, protesting, and who did I see that they said were coming to the thing? What's that? Mrs. Salif coming to the rally they were having or something like that, to say what? That's my question to her. To say what? And someone made a remark and said, Mrs. Salif, they talk about rape, and Mrs. Salif came to the thing, but what's that? We didn't come. Mrs. Sally is a woman. That's number one. A woman, she was there for 12 years. What did she do for the Liberian women? What institutions did she leave there? She established that we can talk about. You know, you Liberians, and it's unfortunate too, because these are things that the Ministry of Information are supposed to be talking about, to be discussing. Because I see that movement, and for her to even come there to talk, rape wasn't going on during her time. Is that what she's trying to say? And when it went on, what did she do?
Right. I think it went on, and one of those big ones was the more than me case.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So I mean, this is a woman, a mother. You see, so that's, I mean, she's trying to undermine the president. She's trying to undermine what his name we are. I'm not impressed with that. What does she do for the women? Nothing that I know of.
In my village, they say if you invite a drunkard to your party, you should be ready to clean his vomit.
Yes. You see, so that's sycophancy. You see, and that's not good.
All right. We'll soon be opening our phone lines so that you can take part. But in the meantime, you can post your comment as we go to our final segment, which is a piece of the civic education we're going to discuss today is the Constitution, because we want to throw some light on the referendum or the election that is coming.
Okay. Now, this part is very important. It's important because there are dates already set, and Liberians need to know the date. All people know is that the only thing they know is December 8th, senatorial election. So the news organs are carrying the information about the elections more than they carry the information about the referendum. Mm-hmm. The referendum is so important because now they're going to go tamper with the Constitution.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been saying all along that in order for us to have peace and reconciliation in Liberia, we must abide by the Constitution. Bulk of the people, some of the people in the House who are supposed to be quote unquote lawmakers, were people that broke the very Constitution that we're going to have a referendum on. The Constitution of a nation is a sacred body of laws. It's a sacred body of law. It's something like the Bible. You see in the Bible where it tells you thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do this and that. It's the same thing with the Constitution. The Constitution tells us what we are supposed to do in Liberia and what we are not supposed to do in Liberia. So this year or last year, the 54th legislature of the Republic of Liberia decided that they will put some proposals before the Liberian people. A referendum is where you try to obtain a popular vote among the voters. Yeah. For example, you carry information before they say, look, these things here, we look at our laws and we feel that these things here need to be changed, X, Y, and Z. But we need your approval. And one of the things that I was saying before, Dennis, with respect to civic education, is that the Liberian people don't know what type of government is being run in Liberia. They know that there's a president, they know there's a vice president, they know there's a chief justice, but they don't know the interrelationships between the branches of government in Liberia and what they're supposed to do. Because if they knew that, then they will know what their powers are. Right now, number one is that The Liberian people need to know. I mean, all of you Liberians, wherever you are, in the village, wherever you are, you need to know that you are the ones who got the power. Not the person sitting in the mansion, not the person sitting in the house, not the person sitting in the temple of justice. You, the people, are the ones that have the power. That's why we're called a democratic Republican government. Means that the decision that is made in the country must reach the consent of majority of the people. So you, the people, are the ones who have the power. The people who are in power must come to you to get your approval in order for you to get in power. So that's why we're having a referendum. If they had the power, they're just going to change the law by themselves. But they don't have the power. You got the power.
Yeah.
That's why they're coming to you to ask to change certain things in the Constitution. And as an educator, I will provide my own personal opinion regarding that, because I got personal interest as well in what is taking place in the country and the decisions that will be made that will be legalized in the country through the Constitution. So with respect to the national referendum, they said the date of general elections. First of all, they want to change the date for general elections in Liberia. Right now, and from the beginning, the elections, general elections, are always held the second Tuesday in October. When we're having election, anytime we're having election, the election will be held the second Tuesday in October. So they're having the referendum, and then you cannot change the Constitution, you cannot amend the Constitution without going back to the people to ask them for their permission to make any changes to the Constitution, because a legal document is binding on all of us. So in order to change the election time from the second Tuesday in October, and they're suggesting that it goes to the second Tuesday in November, you got to have a referendum. So one of the proposals on the referendum is to change the general election date from the second Tuesday in October to the second Tuesday in November. So when we vote, when we do the referendum in November, then and it passes, then going forward, we will hold our elections the second Tuesday in November. I mean, in November instead of October. But right now it's October, but we're going to the polls, to the referendum, to change it from October to November, second Tuesday in November. Then, according to and the 54th legislature did a joint resolution in order for them to decide to have a referendum. And the joint resolution is LEG-002-2019. It was adopted September 30th, 2019 by the Senate and House of Representatives of the 54th legislature, proposing a constitutional referendum to amend. Listen to this, please, and please jot down the information I'm going to read to you, because this is coming from the National Gazette. The information based on what's going to happen in November and in December. The joint resolution, there is LEG-002-2019, and it was adopted September 30th, 2019 by the Senate and the House of Representatives. That one makes it a joint resolution, okay? And we're proposing a constitutional referendum to amend Articles 28, 45, 47, 48, 49, 50, and 83A and C of the 1986 Constitution of Liberia. October 4th, 2019 and printed in handbills. So, because it was done October 4th, 2019, according to law, they say the calling of a national referendum, number one, is in line with chapter 12. Because you got to get constitutional reason why you want a referendum.
Yeah.
What gives you the authority to do it? What gave them the legislature the authority to do it is based on chapter 12, article 92 of the 1986 Constitution of Liberia, which provides for a referendum to be conducted by Elections Commission no sooner than 1 year after the action of the legislature. So because the legislature did that joint resolution thing by September 30th, 2019, and it was done into bills October 4th, no less than a year from there. So because we're changing from October to November, so the referendum will be held before the election. So the referendum will take place October 1st, because that will be either October 1st or 8th, or the second Tuesday. So the second Tuesday in October will be the referendum. Then after we do the referendum to make the changes, then before the legislative elections will be held in December, on December 8th. So those articles are the ones that they're trying to make changes to. And then they're saying that they're proposing the resolution, the proposals. The Constitution says that if you're making more than one proposal, then each proposal will stand on its own. So if we're voting to change the election time from second Tuesday in October to second Tuesday in November, that would be an item on the ballot all by itself. Okay, and then we're proposing what's that, dual citizenship. That would be a proposal all by itself. So in terms of what they are presenting, they got 3 items that they're presenting, one of which would be the dual citizenship proposal, which is they got number 1 here. Proposed constitutional amendment shall be accompanied by statements setting forth reasons therefore, which I just explained. So the reason why they want to change the election time from the second Tuesday in October to the second Tuesday in November is because they say in October it rains a lot.
Yeah.
And when it rains, it's difficult for those who are campaigning to travel around the country. I think, John, the simple thing here is then fix the roads.
I know.
You know? Okay, so that's the reason that's the reason for that proposal, which I think makes sense. You know, we should have our election time when the weather is, you know, good, and we can travel from place to place so that people can participate. So you can see that has affected elections in the past. Sometimes, you know, we have an election, they're trying to get the result from Riverside, the road block, no way to get it, thing, right. The people get stuff, you know, all those kinds of things. You know,
sometimes they are even forgetting that you know, if you have election in November and you have 30 days for redress, and that is running into Christmas, and you don't play with our Christmas.
Yeah.
So that could be an unintended consequence. But Dr. Bala, our phone lines are down. But we have a caller. I told them to call my personal number so we can have them participating. So right now we have a caller on the line. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
My name is Civic and I'm calling from Canada.
Can you give us a little more volume?
Yeah, I said my name is Civic and I'm calling from Canada.
Okay, Sekou Keller, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Your question or comment?
Yes, I have two questions for the doctor. The first one is on the issue of tribalism and the collective guilt issue you guys were discussing. We all know Liberia, we've been facing problems since our founding fathers, brought that nation into being. We've been fighting ourselves, the tribes and all that. And our educational system, I believe, is not helping, like you said. But here's the question. The history books that we have in our schools are telling us you are Gio, you are Mano, you are this. Have the government spent some money to do research to trace the origin of all these tribes so that they can show the historical origin of this tribe, to establish the common ancestors of these tribal groups, and also show the historical continuity and cultural unity, so that everyone will understand that when we say you are Gio, we are only saying that you are of an extended family member of this family. It's not that you are a separate group of people that you have nothing to do with the Crown people in Grand Chile, but you are all one family. You are just an extended family. Has the educational system tried enough to do linguistic studies, to do all the archaeological studies, to trace the origin of this tribe and establish classical history and remove ourselves from this folklore and mythological story? We came from this place here and our father settled here, to establish real scientific data and say this is the origin of this tribe, this is how they migrated, here are the archaeological evidence, so that we will establish a cultural unity, so that these people in the country will have the consciousness that they are one people, that these differences only occur due to settlement, but they are actually one people from one civilization. Are we doing that, or are we going to remain on the ethnic identity? I'm Kran, I'm Gil. Do you think if the educational system continues with that, and people have that in their consciousness, they cling to their tribal identity, do you think we'll be able to build a nation?
That's question number one. Number two.
The second question is the issue of the Constitution. They're saying, they want to do referendum. Don't you think it's time for some of you that are educators around the world to be able to push for Liberia to have a different constitution? This presidential system that we have, or presidential democracy, however they call it, is not working. Is it not time for us to reduce the power of the president, even if we can have a prime minister or have a South African system where the parliament elect the president, and reduce, demystify the power of the president? Because the Liberian president is almost like a king. He's like a monarchy that he decides for the judiciary, decides for everyone, and the nation is not moving forward. Isn't it time to remove 50% of the power in the executive mansion and bring it down to the legislature, so that Liberians begin to know that these representatives they are voting for, they should hold their feet to the fire. They are the real people that have the power. Isn't it time for the educated people to push that agenda? Because this what I would call I don't know, monarchical president, or the kind of president we have, they are almost like kings. Isn't it time to change that system?
Thank you.
Wow.
Some say imperial presidency.
Wow, you asked some very salient questions, Thank you so much for that. To answer the first question, earlier I had told you that we made a mistake, and it's not late to rectify that mistake. We made a mistake by taking people who broke the law to rule the country. You don't do that. Here in the United States, if you steal one candy from the store, you cannot become an elected official. So what we did in Liberia, we did it to ourselves. It's something like a farmer. The farmer in the village, right, John? Once upon a time. The farmer in the village, he had a cassava leaf. You are living in the village with goat, with chicken, with dog, and dog. All right? So, but he had to travel somewhere to take care of some business. So he decided to say, but I got my cassava leaf here. Who I will leave my cassava leaf with? So in the final analysis, he decided to go to goat.
Oh.
Yeah, he went to Gold. He said, Gold said, yes. He said, Gold, I'm traveling, man. I'm going all the time, but I got my cassava leave here. Can I leave my cassava leave with you, please? I will be there for 2 weeks. At least when I come back, you know, I will bring something good for you. Gold said, oh, yeah. I mean, that's fine. Oh, sure. I will take care. In the morning, I will water it. In the afternoon, I will water it. In the evening, I will water it. When you come, your cassava leave will be fresh. Everything will be all right. You think that farmer, when he came back, he met any cassava leaf there when he left it with goat?
With goat?
You know, Kanye, that I'm trying to answer that question because you asked a very good question with respect to what can we do about research. So I gave you your answer. For instance, I'll give you an example. Look at the Liberian budget. See which part of which branch of government got the highest appropriation. That's the first thing. You got people in the house making 30,000 US dollars per month. Look in the Liberian budget and see how much is appropriated for education. Then you will know. And these things are happening because we are taking our cassava leaf and leaving it with goat. Then we expect to have cassava leaf
When we come back.
when we come back. There's something like the same farmer again. I don't know what wrong with the farmer, my people. The same farmer going all the time. You know what he did? He had a goat, his sheep, and everything. You know, going all the time. He went and left everything with leper. So when we continue to make that kind of decisions, we will get nothing out of it. So you can see that education is not valued in Liberia right now.
Right.
We have an issue with that.
Okay.
You see, so talking about research and all of that, it costs money to do research.
Right. And he also talked about the ethnic groups because
the ethnic groups. Now, with respect to the ethnic groups and the educational system, again, my dear brother, this is where we are. Like for instance, let me tell you something. The Liberian government spent, I think maybe 35, $40,000. They invested $25,000, $40,000 in me for me to come to the States to go to acting, directing school, to study culture, to bring people together. So that's my field. That's something that I've been doing for the past 46 years. Look how far the information ministry and the education ministry is from me. Liberians prefer, you know, we talk about collective guilt and all of that, and ethnic affiliation. They prefer that the information ministry shouldn't be productive at all than to take Gbaba and bring it there, because you bring Gbaba there, you will talk about culture, you will talk about how the people are related and how we should be one. And the people they enjoy Liberians being divided because that's how they get their recognition, because they're not prepared. So for someone like me who will go there and say, and explain how the Guild people, the Mana people, the Crown people, how they are interrelated through marriage, and name families that are children, descendants of both ethnic groups, the Towas, the West Side, the Twazamas, and all those people, they are our children. Crown women children married to Guild people. My middle name, Tomo Galode. My father was named by a Guild chief. That's how close they were. But my grandfather was friendly with a Guild chief. When my grandma had my father, the Guild chief came and named my father Toma. So the T in my name is a Guild name, it's not a Crown name. We got so many relationships. I went to school in Nimba. I went to high school in Nimba, in Saint Clan. I grew up there in Nimba. You see? So people like us who would talk and bring people together, they don't want that.
Right. Okay. Dr. Gbaba, let's get ready to wrap up.
Okay. So I'll give you an example of what's going to be taking place during the referendum.
Yeah.
Proposition number 1. Now, proposition number 1, which has to do with dual citizenship, is what I'm interested in. And the reason why I support dual citizenship, you know, I wrote a little release that I want to read, you know, to everyone.
You can send it to us, we'll publish it.
Yeah, sure, I will send it.
Because we don't have the time now to read through it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, okay, I will send it to you. But proposition number 1 is to amend Article 28 of the Constitution to provide for inalienability of the citizenship of natural born citizens. And they gave the text regarding what it should be. And I just want to quote that. You know, it says, any person, at least one of whose parents was a citizen of Liberia at the time of the person's birth, shall be a citizen of Liberia, provided that such person shall, upon reaching maturity, renounce any other citizenship acquired by virtue of one of the parents being a citizen of another country. Then it says, no citizen of the Republic shall be deprived of citizenship or nationality. So that's one of the proposals. The other proposal is voting for the president, members of the Senate to reduce their terms. Okay, so we may have to do a separate, you know, or broadcast on this, because we have to explain to the people what's going on and how to make that decision. But again, these are some of the things they want to be talking about. Article 50 to reduce the tenure of the president, the vice president, or whatever it is, you know, all of that. So they are very important things, because we don't know whether they're going to reduce it or whether they're going to increase it. So people got to be very vigilant. Because right now, initially when we started the Republic of Liberia, the presidential term was 2 years. Then they changed it to 4 years. And they changed it to 6. You know, so all these changes are taking place. You got to be very careful, because in the house where the people are making the law is where they got they got rebel leaders there. People who don't support the Constitution, now they are coming to play with the Constitution. So they come to play with the Constitution. That's something very serious.
It is. It is. All right. Dr. Gbaba, let's get your final thoughts, and then we can end the show for the night. It's been very, very exciting and very informative and educational.
Yeah, well, my final thought here will be, one, that we should respect one another's, you know, choices during this forthcoming election. You know, people who are in power should be peacemakers. They shouldn't follow those people who are not in power, because, you know, the thing about it is that once you are the leader, the responsibility falls on you to ensure that there's peace, there's harmony, and there's security. So we call on those who are in authority to please be patient and also to operate within the confines of the law. Also, we appeal to those who are not in authority, who are vying for public office, to also respect the law. We don't want any kind of violence during the elections. And also, if there's any dissatisfaction, there are provisions in the Constitution that you can adhere to address, your dissatisfaction. Well, please do not take a recourse to violence. And then also, finally, I want to say that we want to appeal to all those who are in Liberia to please be vigilant. Be careful. Do not allow people to persuade you to make a decision that will separate Liberians who live abroad from Liberians who live at home. We are one people. And we are all entitled to the rights and privileges of the Republic of Liberia. So do not allow anyone to push you against your own people, especially your brothers and sisters here abroad, that you call every morning for assistance. When you're sick, you call for them. When you want house to stay in, you call for them. You want everything, you're calling for us and all of that. When it is time now for you to go and make that decision with respect to that dual citizenship thing, and it's important for people to make that decision to unite us, not to divide us.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, Dr. Gbaba, I want to say thank you so much. Bonjour, Tato. Okay. Imama.
Yeah.
I want to thank all our viewers for tonight for this beautiful edition of Civic Education. We have discussed some of the terms and the phrases. We also have something like collective guilt, something that we frown on. This Saturday at 3 p.m. we're going to continue with our FOL Marketplace, where we discuss business and economics. Then Saturday night, we're going to be a debate, political debate. You have some people supporting the Senate seat, or the senatorial election in Maserati is rare hot. Mr. Darius DeLong going against Thomas Fala. So far, we say are the two top candidates. We have people supporting them, so they will come here Saturday night and debate why each of their candidates should be the choice for Maserati County. You don't want to miss that. Then on Sunday, we're going to have Dr. K. Moses Nambe, who's going to discuss the Southeastern Liberia factor. There are people who are putting all Southeasterners in one bucket because of political reason. Again, collective guilt. So we want to call Dr. Moses Nambe to come and explain what really they're talking about when they say Southeastern Liberia. Are they the geography? Is it the people? Is it the place, the ethnic group? What is it? And what has been their role in Liberia? Is it justified to say, oh, the Southeasterners are high-headed? Why do you think people are saying that? Any truth to it? Dr. K. Moses Nambe will break all that down on Sunday. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we can't thank you enough for being here with us to discuss these things. These are the important things that we're supposed to be talking about. Right now on social media, it's all noise. That's what people love to listen to. But for those of you who took your time to come here and be part of this, we say thank you so much. Please share the show. We are in a discussion with some radio station in Liberia to be able to carry this broadcast live so that people in Liberia will benefit. We have one of the station manager is watching from Wesu FM 88.9 in Wela, Mangibi County. We are finalizing discussion, so our program will be carried in 9 counties in Liberia from Wesu FM 88.9 in Wela, Mangibi County. So we will be soliciting help from all of you to help us so that radio stations in Monrovia and other parts of Liberia can relay these very, very important educational, informative shows. So that Dr. Gbaba, what he's doing here, he gets paid for talking, but he's doing it for us free the best we can do is let the people in Liberia listen to it so that they can learn from it, that we have a peaceful election. Thank you again.
And then also, Jack, just to put this in is important because as you know now, the Ministry of Information, you know, if they're not doing some of this that we are doing, then we need to do it because the people need to understand when they are going to be voting and what it is that they're going to be doing during the referendum and the election. So it's very important for the Liberians, the private people, to take the initiative to support this program so that we can produce and inform the people, even if the ministry doesn't do it.
Exactly. Because it is in the interest of politicians that our people don't know, so that they will remain almighty and vote for them and get beyond there and say, go, Meza, we don't go with fire. Something, things that don't make sense, so that we celebrate foolishness, as I said the other day.
Yeah.
But if the people are enlightened, they are educated, they know their roles, they know their rights and responsibilities, they are able to make decisions that will take the country forward. Right now, the referendum is more important than the election, but the emphasis now is on the elections. Elections for the senators, 9 years, they're going to change. But when you amend the Constitution to change it today, it may take the next 50 years before you change it again. So it is very, very important, but it doesn't have any prominence. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what's supposed to vote for. When you are voting for a candidate, you can see the candidate picture, and they have come to you. Maybe they give you rice or bucket. You're able to vote for them. But for referendum, what is it that you really, for people that cannot read and write, what is it that they're going to be using to vote? So they need that education. And this is the kind of education we are providing here tonight. And so if you are here, please, this will be put on YouTube. Give somebody Gigabyte and say, watch this show so that you will know what to do come December, so you can vote right.
In November, don't forget, you got to do it November 1st before you do December.
For the referendum, so you can choose wisely. Again, from all of us here at Focus on Liberia, we want to say thank you. Before we go, remember COVID is still around. Please observe all the protocols. We're going to leave you with one song because this song speaks to who we are. Whether you are Bandi, you are Gola, or Grebo, we are all Liberians. And that's why we are here. Good night and God bless you.
Kukele kukatono.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. We